My greatest learning experience is probably when I tried to start my first company and then failed. The whole process of starting a company teaches you a lot, and I didn't try to meet people; it just sort of happened. Reaching out to your target market is what I did. Was my first step starting this company. So my target market happened to be the network of people who I met, and that network of people led to internships, speaking engagements, equity holder and startup companies all over the place. So it was the whole process of starting a company. That was my first lesson.
When you first started, was it very intimidating talking to these people, getting involved with them, networking, reaching out?
It was a bit intimidating at first. There were people who did not take me seriously strictly because of my age, and obviously that hurts a bit, but I had these successful people telling me that it doesn't matter how old you are, it's what you know, and if you show that you're successful, you show you know your stuff, not necessarily successful, then people will take you seriously. So it was intimidating at first, but not so much anymore. So aside from having a catching subject line, write a short and quick, to the point, quick email. No one's going to read a 5-paragraph email. No one's going to read a 2-paragraph email. Have an introductory paragraph if you're cold emailing somebody, and always end with 1 or 2 questions, because busy people skim through the body of your message and look directly for the questions. So make sure to have a couple of general questions at the end of each email.
This huge network that you've built of people that you've interacted with and learned from, I know you have a lot of mentors, but is there one that really stands out, or a couple that really stand out as inspiring?
So one that stands out is Justin Fishner-Wilson. He's at the Founders Fund, which is an early-stage technology venture capital firm. And Justin, when I was 15, rejected me. He would not hire me as an intern, and I was hurt since the Founders Fund was a company that I really wanted to work for. But I happened to run into Justin a year later, and he was impressed where I was, and long story short, I got to intern for him this past summer, and he inspired me to run a conference, which is my next project, and you can check everything out at nextgenconf.com. So yeah, Justin. Who else? I guess Mark Cuban. When I was very young, he was someone who taught me that it doesn't matter how old you are if you know your stuff, and people will take you seriously. So those 2 mentors are, I guess, 2 of the most inspiring that I can think of on the spot.
Would you say that your age, sometimes not being taken seriously because of your age, is one of the biggest obstacles in getting across to these people, or are there other ones?
It was an obstacle, but it's also an advantage, since I don't think I would be able to do the things that I've done if I was 25 or something, because everyone's looking for a job right out of college. So, people were willing to help this young, innocent kid. So I actually leveraged my age, and people were willing to help.
What do you see yourself doing? I know you have the conference, but near future and then a little bit farther down the line.
So I definitely see myself starting companies, and then eventually, years from now, being on the other side of the table and investing in young, smart people. So, people investor rather than an idea investor. Before I went to New York City for an internship, they asked me to do due diligence for a couple of potential investments. And he said, come up with the criteria on your own, and then send it to me when you're finished. So I did just that, and I researched 3 similar companies, gave them my personal recommendation, and ultimately the one I recommended was soon thereafter one of their investment companies. So it was cool seeing, I recommended this company. 2 weeks later, they went out and invested in that company. Even though my role was probably very small, it was still neat to see that work in some ways paid off.
How was the first time you ever spoke to a college group?
So the first time I spoke to a college group was at Duke University, and I was nervous before I flew to Duke, but once I got to Duke, wasn't nervous at all. I didn't know anyone in the room, so I got out of my comfort zone and did well. One of the questions asked was, how does it feel being a high school student talking to college upperclassmen? And then he answered himself saying, oh, never mind, I'm sure that you've done this several times before, when it really was my first time. So I do sleep, but I go in different cycles where I try to get up early at like 5 in the morning, 2 hours or 2.5 hours before school starts, and work. That's when I'm the most focused because no one's on Facebook, no one can call me, everyone's sleeping, so it's just me, and it's just me. So on occasion, I like that cycle. You go to bed early, you wake up early, and other than that, I guess during the weekends at curfew's 12 o'clock, so at 1 a.m. is when I'll work for an hour or so.
Are you getting excited for college next year?
I am. It's going to be different. It's going to be nice, though, not having to wake up at in the morning for classes.
So I know that you said you haven't decided yet, but is Illinois still on the table?
Illinois is high on the list, so I have to get in first.